Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. With that, we move on to the CIO's dialogue titled Leaders' View on Blending Business and Technology. And first up, it's an honor and privilege to welcome and introduce the members of this esteemed panel. Quethran, Head of Information Technology Europe and Russia at DP World. Manoj Bhadgaonkar, Managing Director, Technology Services Lead for Accenture in India. Vivek Agarwal, Chief Information Officer, India Mart Intermesh Limited. And Ranganathan Iyer, Group Chief Information Officer at JBM Group. This session will be moderated by Amit Khanna, Partner and Leader, Front Office Transformation at PwC India. Amit, over to you.
Thank you, Ivan. Thank you and welcome everyone. I have 45 minutes to help with my panelists to give you some idea about how we are seeing the business and the technologies getting intertwined and how together the role of a CIO is changing, actually getting more and more busier with what's happening in their businesses. So that's what we will try to explore over the next 45 minutes. I have a fairly experienced group of people there with varied kind of experiences, and I hope we all will be able to learn from their experiences as such. While we do our discussion, if you have any points which you want me to raise, please feel free to put onto the comment or the chat box, and we will see if we can take that in our discussion. So with that, I directly come to the point. Let me just basically start my discussion with a completely new age technology-driven company. And I may come to you, Vivek, to start the discussion. You've been in India, but the whole business model is based on technology. And I believe in your kind of a business model, the technology and businesses are fairly well entangled together. So how do you see a typical role of a CIO in your kind of a company? What kind of matrices you follow? And can you give an example for our audience to actually understand how business and technologies are working together as one team, or it's still very separate service provider kind of mentality which works in an organization? So Vivek, may I actually start with you here?
Hi, thank you, Amit. Good afternoon, everyone. So as rightly said by Amit, we are a core technology company. So everything starts from technology. And when we talk about the blending of the technology and business, I tell you, we all understand the CIOs are the unique people who understand the technology and business both. They understand technology to the core and they have a fair to good understanding of business. And that's where they are playing the role of enabling technology not only for the business requirements, but helping the business take decisions based on the technology levers which they have. So if I talk, for example, we just talked about an example of WhatsApp. So let's talk about WhatsApp. So when this pandemic started in last March 2020, right, we found that everybody was working from home. And we did not, the call center people who used to receive the calls, incoming calls for helping the users, they were not more than 20% available. So we immediately thought of, okay, let's enable WhatsApp. Why don't we enable a WhatsApp chat? And we cannot have people responding on WhatsApp, rather we have a chatbot. So we immediately moved to a WhatsApp chatbot where the same number could be used for incoming messages received on WhatsApp. And there was a chatbot engine which was pre-built with us. We were already having a chatbot on the website. We immediately integrated the same chatbot backend engine with the WhatsApp, and the entire customer service was reinstated using the people who were available along with the chatbot service, the chatbot system on the WhatsApp. So these kind of decisions. Another example I can give you. So when this pandemic started, all the sales people had limited bandwidth. The availability of the salespeople was reduced, and they also had limited bandwidth. And then we started to focus on how to increase their efficiency, how to increase their output. And we found, for example, then new sales onboarding, new sales acquisition, we found that it was a 4 to 5 step process. It took a lot of manual intervention. And then we identified the entire process, and it took around 2 to 3 weeks to stitch it completely. Where as soon as the supplier makes a payment or registers on the platform, they immediately get a call from the production team instead of waiting for a day or two. So this also reduced the manual effort by the sales team, increasing their efficiency, and also gave a better gratification to the customers. So I think these all decisions could be possible only when the CIOs and the business people understand the core technology, and hence a decision can be made. So, yeah.
Right. No, I think that's a very good view, Vivek, from your side, because you were a technology first company, and you were perhaps able to look at pandemic time very differently, and able to react very quickly. May I actually pose a similar question to you, Mr. Iyer? You are manufacturing first company and predominantly do all the work in the manufacturing space. Do you also see technology playing a bigger role in your kind of organization, and the role of a CIO is becoming more in supporting the business decision making rather than providing support?
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. We have to understand, as far auto segment is concerned, technology penetration at the production floor is far more than many of the companies. We cannot go beyond certain core IT companies, we understand that. But the adoption of technology on the manufacturing floor is very high. But having said that, how we are converting that into the meaningful decision-making tool, which is going to play a vital role. For example, we were having SCADA-based system, which was collecting all the data, and we had PLCs, we had many other things. But collating all put together and then taking out meaningful information, and then submitting it to the right kind of person to take right decision. The penetration has gone to the next level. That is number one. Number two, because of pandemic, the manufacturing, specifically the production floor people, also started finding good manpower availability was an issue. Having said that, producing goods and doing the quality check, we wanted to eliminate the quality check by human through technology intervention. Over and above, there were hidden facts. For example, when you are trying to do a manufacturing, if the last machine is providing you the output, we think that the production line is up and running. There are machine which is not performing during the time, a hidden machine not producing time. Through technology intervention, we are in a position to identify that too. We have not considered any machine which is not producing less than 2 minutes. We don't consider that machine is not producing. If it is more than 2 minutes, and like that, in a day, we could save around 23 minutes because of the technology intervention. Although we were very high on adapting robots and many other things, but fine-tuning, collecting the data, taking the right insight, and displaying to the person responsible for corrective action was really fantastic. Yes, technology is playing a very vital role on bringing in a right decision making.
Perfect. No, I think that's very insightful, Mr. Iyer, because like you said, even in places where we are doing predominantly manufacturing, technology is actually playing a role, whether we're talking about quality or whether we are talking about connecting people and getting the right product. So that's very insightful.
If you take one illustration, sorry to interrupt.
Because you, yeah, please go ahead.
That is another point. Because of short of manpower, we have brought in technology-based quality check happening through system, through technology. Around 40 plus quality parameters are checked by system, which is really break even for the manufacturing people, because incorrect material going to customers' production line, we get a very big charge back. This is one of the very good illustration of deployment. Thank you.
Right. No, that's very interesting here. So I was coming to you, Mr. Kwe, here because one, you work in a very traditional logistic led industry. Also, you get that experience across multiple countries, and I'm assuming you see difference in terms of approaches to the technology or the integration between technology and business vary by country to country. So what's your experience around that?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that, Amit. Yeah, so I would say ultimately it's about the business outcome we're trying to achieve for us as an organization and our customers. Obviously, as you're rightly correct, we're located across many countries, but ultimately our goal as an organization is to help the customer move the products and goods from the factory floor to the shop door, right? And that could be across one country, across the region, across the whole world. So for us as an organization, we touch about 10% of the world's global trade. So for us, it's more about how we interconnect all our physical assets as well as all our digital assets. And that's where technology has a tremendous role to play in transforming logistics. As you said, logistics, and particularly maritime as well, is one of the oldest industries in the world, right? So with that comes a lot of cultural heritage, but also that means there's a lot of opportunities to use technology to drive it forwards. Things with improving efficiencies, automation, process streaming, exchange of transfer of data, customs clearance. There's a whole heap of opportunities in traditional technology, but also innovative technologies as well in moving that forwards. And what we've seen, I think, in the last period is that traditional channels and operations have been impacted, right? And that's where the value of sort of digital products and channels, but also accelerated adoption of technology really helps businesses stand out across. And yeah, you're correct in the sense that, there's different maturity levels of technology, but the benefit of technology today is that it is very scalable. And if we look at something like the cloud as well, in the adoption of certain technologies, that can be adopted very quickly, very widely across, multiple areas, multiple jurisdictions across the world. And that's where I think, it's really a great opportunity to be not just a technology leader, but be a business leader in driving forwards and helping your organization.
Right. No, I think this is a very interesting perspective, Mr. Kwe, because when you started talking about effectiveness and efficiencies, you're talking in the terms of the business matrices and the business KPI, which is moving, rather than talking about how much time I have saved, how better my dashboard look like, which is a traditional way the technology or the technologists used to speak. So I'm quite impressed. Because I remember when we were talking to a client and the client wanted to do a technology intervention in the front end, they wanted to say that, okay, tell me how many additional customers will I get? I am not bothered about what you are doing at the ground level, right? So that's a very, very good insight. Maybe this brings me to you, Manoj, because you deal with multiple clients, again, perhaps across geographies, across different level of maturity, and you actually deliver technology projects to them, right? So is the client happy with saying, okay, what is your TAT, or what are the typical technology metrics which used to be followed? Or now they have started asking to you, okay, tell me what is the business benefit I will get, how much of additional revenue will happen, how the cost will come down, how my work will become simpler. So is that the conversation changing, or it's still on the traditional way that, okay, tell me what is you're going to do from the technology assets which I have?
Thanks, Amit. So yes, I think I'll provide my perspective as a consulting and IT services provider. And I think today's world, I think CIO's job is quite tough, and I think I've seen sort of an evolution towards business KPIs in the conversations for last 4-5 years, and more so in the last 18-24 months. That has happened. And I talk to some industry, and again it changes by industry, right? Certain industries, let's say telco, banking, by nature of it, are very technology oriented, right? But then I now talk to retail, energy, consumer goods. I see a lot of focus on business outcomes, right? I think that was generally not seen. And I think when I look at the organization, the type of industry they are in, also the maturity of the organization also matters, and therefore CIOs sort of positioning in the organization, who does he report to, whether he reports to CFO or a COO or a CEO, which is probably the ultimate reporting. And and we talk about a lot of new evolving technologies with the client. For example, data driven transformation, right? For example, now the more mature client CIOs are definitely looking at the business KPIs. For example, in the revenue upliftment, they're saying, okay, I would like to understand what will be the increase in the loan sanction from cross sell upsell, what will be the conversion rate, right? Will my NPA provisioning decrease? Is my TAT improving? Time taken to onboard a new customer, will my payment declines come down? So there is a lot of focus that I see on business metrics, but also I think there are quite a few challenges, right? I think traditionally there is a reluctance to sign outcome-based contracts with service providers. So therefore there is a lack of framework, tools, processes, governance around it. While there might be an intent, there is no, that entire, ecosystem is missing to help the CIO drive the point. And the second is a lot depends on adoption on the ground and change management within IT and businesses. Even though you may bring a great set of technologies, whether data, AI, and all the new cool things like cloud, etc. I think if they don't are not able to drive the adoption on the ground or manage the change on the ground, then they will not see the outcomes. But yes, in summary, yes, I think there is a lot of focus in terms of business value delivered from projects or even traditional maintenance kind of work. Whereas earlier it used to be IT SLAs for maintenance, and for project it was largely schedule and budget adherence, etc. But now it is moving to exactly, as you mentioned, business KPIs. Yeah, thanks.
Perfect. No, I think, Manoj, you brought out three very important points per se. I think one, what you're talking about is that the technology will be only as useful as the adoption will happen. And I think adoption, you really put a lot of stress on, and I perhaps agree. I think the second thing which you talked about also is the change of a CIO role in the hierarchy. So he's perhaps becoming more part of decision-making body or XCOM or ManCom or whatever the organization call it. And I think there's a shift which is happening there. And the third thing, which perhaps all of you actually started saying, is that, yes, now I am not looking at technology as more a support function, but more a business outcome driven thing per se. So let me dwell a little bit on at least the 2 points you made, Manoj, separately. And maybe I come back to you, Kwe, because again, you are leading a very traditional organization. So how you think when the organization is taking a big business decision, is the technology team or you are being consulted, you are being part of that decision? Is the change in the role or the decision happens somewhere else in the XCOM and it's been told this thing? Is there change in the perception of how can you contribute into a decision?
Yeah, I think that change comes over time. And I believe as an organization, we've embraced that change. And I think it's kind of helped also in the fact that, you prove your value by delivering, right? You need to get and there's certain parts, I mean, we have, I think as a lot of the peers on the call mentioned earlier, we have quite a complex role because we understand technology, but not just what technology does, but what the value it delivers. At the same time, we understand the complexities of our business, and of the various functions and so forth. Essentially, I mean, I would say essentially the CIO role is essentially a CEO with a very technology mindset that understands all the details of that business. So from my perspective, yes, it's being involved in all those conversations, understanding the value of technology and what outcomes it can bring to the organization and ultimately to the customer. Because ultimately, you know, there's a customer at the end of it. So it's two parts to that, right? There's the internal customer, but then there's ultimately also an external customer as well. And having that focus and understanding that. And I think it's also been open and embracing and being involved in conversations. And I think communication is one thing I think I've seen changed a lot in technology over the last period, where the conversations have become different. And because people are interested in understanding the value of what technology can bring to the organization. And, you know, being technology leaders is not about saying, I mean, historically, I would say, if you're looking at seen as a back office function, it's really telling people what to do or telling people what they can't do, right? And it's not really about that. You don't want to be known as the department or the function of no. What you want to be is, I would say, you want to be the function or the department of grow. How can I help grow my business, or how can I help, you know, this particular part of my organization? And when that mindset's in the organization, then actually, you know, rather than going out, people will come to you. Yeah. And you will be involved in a lot more conversations in, you know, transforming the organization and bringing new products to market. And, you know, looking at technology, not just delivering the traditional optimizations and processes. The benefits also of technology is actually, how can I transform my business? What are the new products, the new verticals, the new markets I can enter using technology, and how this can help? And then that's where, you know, you're both shaping the existing organization, but also, you know, helping the organization define its future organization as well.
Right, that's very interesting. And particularly, I really got quite intrigued with your point of talking about how will you build a new organization, and perhaps the technology or the technology mindset in an organization has a huge influence on that. That's a very good point to look at. Maybe I come to you, Mr. Iyer, and you have been a traditionally pure play manufacturing organization, and you started diversifying and expanding into newer areas in the last 5 to 7 years. You would have seen a lot of decisions which would have happened in the recent past. What's the score there? Is the technology being put, or the technology person is sitting on this table when the decisions are happening, or is it a secondary thought? Okay, I go into a new business and then we will see what to do with technology, or vice versa. So is the technology being prime consideration or one of the important consideration while doing that?
See, that we have to see where we stand. For example, we have auto parts component division, which is 35 plus years old. We have legacy. We have OEM. We are manufacturing bus, which is in less than 6 years we are into that. We have solar power generation. We have waste to energy power generation. We are into battery manufacturing, EV battery manufacturing. If you look at it, it all depends on what kind of business, what kind of legacy you carry. For example, it is not only deploying technology, it is leveraging the advantage of deploying it across value chain. For example, if you are into auto component division, whatever we are doing for new, it has a technology as a base we take and then we construct. The decisions are the machines or the assets which are getting procured or state of the art. It has got all capabilities of talking about their health themselves, and it is ready to provide different kinds of insights what that particular machine has got. But when you are trying to do a technology intervention which is going to resolve the pain point of the business, which is going to give you a quick ROI, and getting it deployed across is very, very crucial. So it all depends on where you stand. If it is in the auto component division, we take a cautious call, how much value we are getting out of it. If it is going to be a new business like solar, where it is from day one itself, it is 100% IoT enabled, because all are connected to SCADA. It is all the individual panels are talking about themselves. Boss, I'm not okay. I'm generating 40% less of the power. I need maintenance. That itself says about what kind of maintenance that particular panel wanted. So if you are talking about OEM, yes, it is being into the division of where EV is our core manufacturing of bus, where everything is state of the art, and without technology, we cannot survive there. Selling a single bus without technology is not possible. So it is a mixed bag. If you are into auto component, we take a cautious decision and we see value for money. If it is going to be a division which is like OEM, we ensure that technology is driving the decision. Than of based on technology only, we will say that these are the things we wanted. What is possible, we will adapt that. That way we go. So legacy, we take cautious. Otherwise, we are driven by technology. Than of decision itself is a core of technology is the core for that.
Right. I think that's a good point you're making, that it also depends on the maturity of the business and where the businesses are. So the new age businesses where you are in, technology is playing the central role or the primary role, where some of the traditional business consciously and adopting more and more technology. No, I think that's a very, very valid point. Maybe I come to you, Vivek, because you, as I said earlier, and you also expressed that you are a technology first company per se, and everything else got designed around that. And you perhaps are more mature compared to most of the other industries we have sitting on the table. What do you think will be the role of an ideal CIO per se in an organization of tomorrow? Is it going to be maintaining the digital asset? Is it going to be building the digital asset? Is actually going to control some of the business matrices? So what will be the ideal role of a CIO in your view? So if you have to give a 30-second view of that, this is my dream CIO, what will be that?
I'll take a 1 minute view instead of 30 seconds. So,
you
5 years,
1.5 minutes.
5 years ago, we did not have this CIO vertical in India Mart. 2017, it was decided, okay, let's have a vertical, let's have a CIO. And then when I was asked that would you take this, and that time we had a 10 people team who ran the ERP. There was nothing else apart from that. Entire data engine was there with India Mart. But the CIO vertical had a 10 people team, which I started with. And right now we have a 150 people team, which is a mix of the engineers, database engineers, DevOps, server, SOA people, and front-end developers. So this entire team has become large enough to not only support the technology for the business, rather give the business all the inputs based on which the decision can be made. So right now I report to the CEO, and 60% of my KPIs are shared mutually with the CEO, which means that the CIOs of future will be driving 80% of the business. They will be driving all the key KPIs of the business. This means that the business doesn't come with a flat requirement. The business comes with the problem. And as CIOs, our job is to now discuss the problem, identify which are the key areas to be worked upon, which will impact the KPI, ultimate KPI of the CEO, and then prioritize accordingly. It is not so earlier. If the CIO, if the tech people, the IT team used to get 15 tasks to do, now they are not 15 tasks. They are discussed, prioritized, the impactful projects are picked up. So that's a big difference which we see. 5 years ago we hired an AI ML person, and when he when he came to us that, okay, I'm going to solve this problem, give me this data. We took so much of time to extract that huge data and give it to him for the problem solving. So we understood that problem, and over these years, we have built the entire engine, which now across India Mart, any data you want and any volume, I can give you within a tag of 24 hours. So this entire system has now been built, and this data and the intelligence, this is provided to the business based on which the basic decisions can be made. Only then we can drive the CEO's KPIs. So this is how I see it. So the future CIOs will be on the driver's seat. And if I see 60% of my KPIs being shared with the CEO, I'm sure after 4 years or 5 years, it will be 90% the KPIs shared directly with the CEO.
Oh, so that's a very interesting point. So we have seen an era where the CEOs typically used to come with the financial background. So the CFO used to become CEO. Then we have seen an era where a COO or a chief commercial officer becomes CEO. So what you are telling me, Vivek, is that we are perhaps entering into an area where the CIOs will perhaps become the future CEOs, because that's the KPI overlaps which are looking like. Is that the right way of interpreting?
Absolutely.
Perfect. That's a very insightful, and perhaps also very happy to hear that, perhaps because we all belong to that fraternity where we come with a technology background. So that makes our future much more brighter. Maybe I come to you, Manoj, with a similar kind of a question. And again, because you deal with both business and the technology stakeholders in the clients, which are very varied across the scale of maturity. How do you see the role of CIO changing, and what is going to be your view of an ideal CIO of future?
Yeah, thanks. I think, as I said earlier, the CIO role is definitely now much more elevated than ever before, right? And it is a very complex role, and there is definitely in most of the industries a seat at the Mancom, Excom kind of committees, and no major decisions are taken without the consent of CIO. So I think that kind of authority is definitely with the CIOs. Even some of the traditional companies, manufacturing oriented, are now embarking on digital transformation, and I think therefore CIO role becomes very important. I think a couple of things that when I talk to CIOs that I see for them to deliver business value, a couple of things that are on their mind, right? We spoke about the absence of a framework, absence of an initial business case, and a sort of culture of measuring value and ability to control the change management and adoption. Two, three other things that I think are on their mind is, one is talent. There is this huge talent crunch that is there in the market. So whether it is within the organization or the service providers that you are working with, there is absolute shortage of right talent. So that is definitely one problem that they need to solve if they really need to make a difference to business, and they are all thinking about it day and night. Second is sort of operating model related to, I would say, more one is, yes, how are they organized, and some of the more mature industries are organizing by platforms, and therefore how is your talent organized, but more to do with ways of working, because there is increased pressure on agility in terms of delivering value to business. Nobody is now waiting for 9-month, 12-month, 18-month programs. Everybody wants to see something in 3 months. Now that is impossible unless you have agile way of working. And how do you do that with a complex world of having COTS applications, service providers, your own team? Second is the whole DevOps tool chain. A lot of people talk about it, but it is in the traditional enterprises, not the technology first companies. They definitely have it. Traditional companies still have it in silos, and that is hindering their ability to deliver agile outcomes. And the third is the legacy that they're carrying, right? They're carrying a lot of legacy, hundreds of application, the technology, the enterprise architecture is in some ways not in really good shape, which allows you to move fast, and the business is expecting you to move fast. So that is where I'm seeing now a lot of effort being spent in terms of having a enterprise architecture roadmap and sort of a vision to move towards the right architecture so that you can deliver your promises. So that I think those are the three things that I have seen playing on their minds to deliver value to business. Thanks.
No, thank you, Manoj. And I think I really like your point in terms of everything in 2 months, 3 months, and perhaps that culture has been built when a Blinkit can deliver in 10 minutes. Why can't we have a technology project done in 3 months' time? So that's also happening per se. Maybe last question of the panel, and maybe I come to you, Kwe, to ask this. Do you see there's a now, because perhaps this role is in transition, CIO still trying to learn some of the new things or how to manage a business? Do you see any challenge? And if yes, what are the biggest hindrance for us to perform at that level?
Yeah, I think the risk is that obviously having a good understanding of the organization is actually seeing all the opportunities that you can change. But at the same time, it's actually been about being able to focus as well on things, because obviously I believe that if you focus on nothing, you're going to be distracted by everything. And ultimately, we talk about agile and being in technology, but my take on something like agile is not just about doing anything and everything immediately. It's about being able to change, understand the market, change, adapt, and then deliver with the agility and focus. Yes, as a technology perspective, it's about being able to plan and handle both bad and good situations as well. And that's very important, as we've seen, building that resilience in technology that underpins your organization and your business and your customers. And particularly in technology, when things go well, we get overly optimistic, but at the same time, we get overly pessimistic in resolving a crisis. And being that leader, I think, is about being balanced, being able to balance and handle both, and being able to lead people through these situations of change and transition, but also with growth as well. And that's very important. And I think whether it's a CIO or whether it's any other kind of leader, it's about being able across your organization to have good people, great people, building a capable team and trust. And from my perspective, the leadership is about being able to provide the right environment to enable those around you to excel. So from my perspective, it's about being able to share as much as possible, responsibilities, vendor relationships, recognitions, rewards. I think that's very important that people understand what they're part of and where we're trying to go. And I think the second part is really about, as the role, obviously as gets a lot more focus and attention, as peers have said, it's about communication and interacting with people as much as possible, whether obviously in technology, but also in other parts of the organization as well. Because a lot of the times what we see is that challenges arise because of lack or misaligned communications and understandings of things. And I think so listening and talking to people as much as possible is key. And asking the questions to different people more than once. It's also important to get to the heart of things and actually really understand what is the important thing that we need to resolve here. Because a lot of the challenges in business as well as technology is about problem solving. And for us, it's about, being able to quickly get to the root of the absolute problem very quickly so that we can actually apply what we need to move the organization forwards, be it, a challenge in the organization or a growth opportunity.
Right. No, thank you, Kwe. This is very helpful. And I think what my group of panelists are saying is that, yes, the CIO role is changing. The business and technology is much more intertwined. We definitely see bright future for CIOs because the KPIs are overlapping with CEOs. So maybe we are entering into an era where the CIOs will be the next CEOs. This is across the board. Having said this, we need to tread this path cautiously because we are in the transition mode. Like what Mr. Iyer was said, that it's important to keep the caution and adopt technology. Adoption is going to be a challenge. Like what Mr. Kwe was trying to say, that the CIO needs to develop all the leadership quality, whether it's to do of communication, whether it's to be openness, whether it's to be the problem solving, and that's how they will perhaps be able to graduate to more. So hopefully with a cautious optimism, we can say that the CIOs perhaps are becoming more and more important in the organization as we see technology and business becoming more intertwined. And we will see more of that happening in the future, both in traditional as well as the new age industries, perhaps more in the new age industry than in the traditional industry. But yes, that's happening at a very, very fast pace, and we all can relate to that per se. So that's what we thought we will cover. I think we are over hour. Thank you, panelists, for your kind suggestions and the points which you made. May I actually invite Ivan now to take it over from me?
Thank you. Thanks, Amit. Honestly, to the esteemed members of this panel, thank you for sharing those cutting-edge insights on blending business and technology. That was a real masterclass, and I'm sure we're leaving with a lot of takeaways. We wish you and your respective organizations the very best going forward. And thank you, Amit. You did a fantastic job, not just of moderating this panel, but summarizing key points after every panelist spoke and right at the very end. So thanks so much, Amit. Do stay tuned in, ladies and gentlemen. We will be back with our final session in a couple of minutes, which is the closing keynote. And with that, we move on to the final session of this summit, which is the closing keynote titled Innovative Data Protection for Multi-Cloud Workloads. And I have the honor and privilege of welcoming Ripu Bajwa, Director and General Manager, Data Protection Solutions at Dell EMC India. Ripu, over to you.
Hello everyone and welcome to the session. I am Ripu Bajwa, Director and General Manager for Data Protection Solutions at Dell Technologies India. Today we're going to talk about innovative data protection for multi-cloud workloads. I'm sure you will all agree that data has become the most invaluable asset today. All our customers and you especially are looking at cloud and multi-cloud environments for protection and management of your information assets and the valuable data sets. Effective and proven data protection solutions have proven that you can actually do more with less. You can manage your investments in the cloud much more effectively. As you scale for more elasticity, more agility, faster time to market, as well as getting more in less, you need to have the control over the data as well. So let's begin with what have been the drivers for multi-cloud. We have seen with increasing digital distributed workforce, our customers, our suppliers, our partner ecosystems, and overall, our entire landscape has increased dramatically. Add to it the fact that development of IT and the transformation IT has to go hand in hand. We've looked at embracing the multi-cloud in a bigger way. And finally, with the emergence of new technologies and the ability to access data from anywhere and be able to churn the data and get actionable insights out of them, one has to embrace the multi-cloud. And we have seen this happening across the board. If you really look at it, cloud has been one of the biggest disruptive technologies in the modern decade. And Most of the organizations have gone beyond one cloud today for the simple reason that as you look at best environment or the best operating model for a particular workload, you would like to use a particular environment for that. And organizations are increasingly finding that with more cloud providers, there's additional competitive advantage they get as well as productive gains. However, with increasing number of players and there is competitiveness in them to offer new services, there is an inherent set of challenges which are coming on the customer's end. First, there is portability, moving your data from on-prem to off-prem and that too in multi-cloud environment. Being able to have the access and the control always. Consistent management. One was used to having everything at their fingertips or at their controls, and now it is in different operating environments outside your perimeter or your data center, which adds to the fact that we just not need to have consistent management experience, but also look after all the governance and the compliance standards which are coming in place. Add to it fact that modern data protection workloads today demand a lot from the infrastructure, and one cannot depend upon the old way of doing backups and recovery and being able to match the current standards or the SLAs. The fact remains you have to do more in less, which means less budgets and there is more pressure to manage the workloads, which means the economics of cloud. How do we really protect, manage, automate in less? So the power of cloud, which is there, also has its own challenges. And how are we helping our customers integrate these multi-cloud environment? We are doing that by bringing it together, making sure that more use cases are available to customers. Firstly, we are helping them look at multi-cloud environments, retaining more data in the cloud, which means more capacity from long-term retention perspective, replicating to cloud for more use cases like disaster recovery, making sure that cloud is used effectively for backup copies in a very efficient manner, and also what are the workloads which are born in cloud? Can we protect them in the same manner or not? These many use cases also demand that the architecture has to be more modern, more cloud ready. And this we are delivering through our proven technologies like data mobility, which means moving very efficiently the data from the client side using very efficient data deduplication technologies so that you're storing less and definitely being able to move less data across your network. So you're saving on costs. Add to it, the fact remains that today you move to cloud for automation, for more easy access and the scale at which you want to do your operations. So having that as a key feature as part of your orchestration tool is a must. So your cloud-ready architecture for modern data protection is going to be a differentiator for you as you consume differential services from these multi-cloud players. This gives the fact that as Dell EMC, we are able to protect very efficiently with multiple use cases in a multi-cloud environment. How do we deliver this? Let's start with first, long-term retention. We help data move from your on-premise in a most efficient manner to any cloud of your choice. And not just that, we help you be there for a long period of time, scale as efficiently, and also be able to keep more in less money. Which means today I am able to serve my customers, I'm able to get more out of my cloud investments and be able to interoperate. And how do we do the interoperation between the multiple clouds is very, very important and a key differentiator. As we automate more, we have seen through a study that organizations have found that 57% of the projects have moved ahead of schedule. Not just that, it has also minimized their exposure to security vulnerabilities. It has been able to guarantee error-proof deployment of their services in a very predictable manner, ensuring reliable workflows, as well as maintaining the organization's ability. All of this with the economics of cloud, saving time, saving money. And how do we do this today in a differential way? We are building all the technologies that we have helped our customers with on-premise to be available on multi-cloud. Technologies such as making sure your policies are protected in a very seamless manner. Across the organization, there is a proper governance between the keys, the data management, tagging the right policies to the workloads, making sure they are available, and also bringing in the self-service approach to your data management layer. Not just that, we are also helping organizations move their entire information assets to be backed up on a SaaS model, which means looking at SaaS applications, be it M365, SFDC, Google Workspace, and also moving towards endpoints and hybrid cloud workloads. All of this through leased infrastructure to be deployed, managing it all in a self-service model. Given the fact that today you are looking at multi-clouds and you're looking at modern workloads, for example, you're looking at Kubernetes clusters across Amazon, Azure, and Google Kubernetes engines. There's no better way to manage between the three than having a very powerful data protection management layer, like a PowerProtect Data Manager, which will have a very efficient and strong engine, very reliable engine, in a software-defined manner, sitting across all these three clusters, which is coming through the Data Domain Virtual Edition. And how we help that is through the effective deployment of these clusters from an orchestration point of view, so that now you can have the control of your data as you operate between cloud environments. And that's a unique differentiator, because now you are able to leverage each of those clouds, each of those services efficiently. Finally, as I said, with the SaaS model, our ability to protect data in a very simple, zero infrastructure cost, ensuring multi-tenancy and scalability, like the way you are doing at enterprise grade, is available. It can start as simple as the least possible number of users that you have, to scaling to the highest possible users, the endpoints that you can look at. All of this through a very simple SKU of licensing, which will take all these use cases. You don't have to look at multiple environments, multiple infrastructure to be deployed. Very simple to use, have a single SKU, and can cater to all the use cases. Finally, why multi-cloud data protection with Dell? We have proven ourselves with our partnerships with more than 1,200 customers in cloud. More than 5.8 exabytes of data is being protected in cloud using Dell Technologies software infrastructure. We have optimized the enterprise workload for protection, which means today whatever you're doing on-prem in your control, you will have the same with multiple cloud providers that you are looking at. And ability to extend the data on-premise to cloud. This is what we are delivering with our customers and helping them embrace multi-cloud much more efficiently, so that their cloud economics works to their advantage. Finally, if you really look at one place where you can look at integration of all of multi-cloud environments using data protection and management, this is what Dell Data Protection is helping our customers with. We would be very happy to talk more on this along with sessions during the Dell Technologies. Happy to be connected with you. Thank you very much for your time.
Innovative data protection for multi-cloud workloads. That was the closing keynote by Ripu Bajwa, Director and General Manager, Data Protection Solutions at Dell EMC India. Thank you so much, Mr. Bajwa, and we wish you and Dell EMC India the very best going forward. Well, that brings us to the end of Dell Technologies and Intel Corporation presents the Economic Times NextGen CIO Summit. The theme for the summit being Bold Leadership, Designing the Future of Work. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all the speakers, members of the various panels, fireside chats, and their respective moderators for taking time off from their very busy schedules and sharing their valuable insights with us today. Once again, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our partners for collaborating with us at this summit. Presenting partners, Dell Technologies and Intel. AI partner, Knowledge Lens Private Limited. Cybersecurity partner, Process IT Global Private Limited. Associate partners, Accenture, Deloitte, and Goldstone Technologies. Knowledge partner, ET Edge Insights. Media partner, CIO Review India. And this summit was brought to you by ET Unwired. Before you leave for the day, if you haven't done so already, do download your digital certificate of participation by simply clicking on the digital certificate button at the bottom of your screen and save it to your desktop. Last but not least, I'd like to thank each of you for joining us today. We look forward to your participation at more such summits in future. On behalf of the Economic Times, this is your host, Ivan Rodrigues, signing off. Have a good evening and a wonderful weekend. Stay safe.